Hello, everyone. Welcome to Truth Bombs. How is everyone today? Uh, Happy New Year's Eve. Tonight, I'm joined with a very special guest, my sister from another life, Jenn Hodgson. Hi, Jenn. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much for having me on your show, Devin.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Tonight we wanted to get together and talk about intention setting for the new year and how important that is. Mm-hmm. We all love the feeling of a fresh start. And for many of us, that's January 1st. Now, we'll get into more about this, but I'm a big proponent that each minute, each hour, each day can be a fresh start. But I know there's a lot of us out there that think January 1st is just like the really big fresh start. So with it being a landmark for so many of us in celebration of the new year, I'm joined here with Jenn to discuss our favorite intention setting practices to guide the energy that we seek more of for 2021. So just see here. Thank you guys for joining. Hi, Scotty. Hi, Greg. Hi, Danny. So I've got, so Jenn, I want to, tell us a little bit more about yourself and, how you have come to be who you are today.
Sure. So first of all, I always like to start with I am a spiritual being having a human experience, because I think that's very important because we're never just one thing. Although with many lives, we are always a spirit of some sort. So other than that, I am a psychic medium and an author, a paranormal investigator. The list just keeps going on and on. Although, for me, those are just kind of terms. It's not actually who I am really. As Scotty has always told us, just be the medium, just be the person that you're supposed to be. And that's really what I try to do every single day and keep that in mind. So that's kind of it. How I came to this knowing and wisdom as just reincarnating so many years. Every time I reincarnate, I've always come back with the same knowledge, and then I keep learning and growing on that. But for this time around, at a very early age, I began experiencing spirits at the time. At the age of 7, like I would see a woman in my room at night and hear a bunch of things, and I just thought it was very normal. I thought everybody did that. And people would say, oh, you're psychic, you're this, you're that. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And just kind of laugh it off. And then in 2009, we started doing paranormal investigations. And that kind of turned my world upside down and inside out. And in 2010, my cousin passed away. And that kind of forced me to really take a look at everything, and it made me realize that, okay, when they were saying that I was a psychic and all this other stuff, they weren't joking. And so it was at that point I had to accept the fact of who I was and what I was able to do. So, and every time I would have a new experience, if I would connect to someone who had passed and it was like a first time thing, the moment I realized what I was doing, I would just completely shut it down. Like I'd be like, okay, that's it. We're done. We're out of here. So I learned how to embrace all of that. And through all the experiences that I've had in life growing up, I'm able to help other people along this same journey, whether it is, they've gone through a childhood where they were abused, or in other relationships where they were abused and everything else. I'm able to help them on that journey. And so that's how I got here. I am here today. So
that's wonderful. I can definitely relate. Anytime that I was having a conversation with a dead loved one, I just figured I was imagining it. And so for the better part of my life, I just kept those things to myself. If it seemed like good guidance, I would take it. If it seemed like love, I would take it, but I wasn't really embodying that or living it. So I understand. And then I am so grateful because I came to meet you through Psychics Unite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Psychics Unite is so interesting because
I should say meet you in this lifetime. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, because we've shared many lifetimes together. So which is really cool. And we've got many more lifetimes to go because we are not done yet. We have a lot of work to do. Yeah. We have a lot of work to do on this, in this lifetime and many others. But, with Psychics Unite, I mean, I've known about Psychics Unite for quite a while. Tina Marie is someone who's also part of Psychics Unite. And I would meet her at events. And I met Scotty. That's where I met him, was at different events. And so, I would always ask her, okay, well, how do I become part of Psychics Unite? Can I be part of your group? And she says, well, you can, but we meet in person and it's like 4 hours away. And it was like, that didn't matter to me. I just wanted to be part of that. And so then, this past year, or this year, I shouldn't say this past year because we're not into the next year yet. I guess some people are in some parts of the world. Yeah. But so this year I asked her again and she was like, why don't you talk to Scotty and see about setting up a chapter? And I'm like, okay, let's do this. So that's kind of how all of that came about. And I've never looked back. I mean, it just feels like I've been part of this for like ever. And being with you and with Scotty and with Terry and, everyone else, I mean, it just feels like I've known you guys I have known some of you for like my entire life, many lifetimes, but it feels like everybody is just part of that soul family. And I think that's really important. A lot of people always talk about trying to find their soul tribe and where they fit in. And when you do, it just clicks. And this is one of those times where it just clicks. And I get that, I was struggling with that for a long time until everything started to fall into place this year. And I think that happened for many people across the world, that things were just starting to click and fall into place the way it was supposed to. And things that, wasn't meant for us was being taken away and being stripped back. And it allowed us to really focus on what was really important. So.
Oh, I agree. I think that has been the antithesis of 2020. And I think we'll start seeing some big transitions out of that in 2021. And, when you have abilities, when you're having experiences like we do, like so many people do, but when you're ready to start talking about them and owning them, having a group of people that you feel safe about coming to is just so critical and crucial. I met Scotty just a little over a year ago at a convention in Cincinnati, and it wouldn't be it would be a few more months before I was actually able to attend and start to really get to know Psychics Unite. And that was one of the big things to come out of this whole COVID mess, was that it actually allowed us to be resourceful enough to go to an online Zoom type meeting. And with everyone, outside of someone's most recent transition to Vermont, I think I'm the most eastward. I think Columbus is the most eastward in Psychics Unite. And so it gave me an opportunity to start a chapter here locally and get to know everyone. And it's just been beautiful. So, yeah, we both recommend Psychics Unite for anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. It is it's a safe place to talk about anything and everything. We don't just talk about, psychic stuff or medium stuff. We share our everyday life. And if there's an issue or there's a problem, you've got a group of people who is willing to step in and help. And, whatever we have to do, whatever it takes, we'll get it done. We'll help you in whatever way we can.
Yes, absolutely. Such a beautiful tribe.
Absolutely.
And then you're also a professional paranormal investigator. You guys run a team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've been doing that. Like I said, we started doing that in 2009, and it's kind of weird how that came about. Steve and I used to do I guess for those who may not know, Steve is my husband, and we have a paranormal group called Professional Paranormal Investigations. But we also used to do an online podcast called Your Life Matters. And I would find different people to have on the show. It was an hour show, no commercials during the show. And we were talking to a group out of Indianapolis, and they invited us to go with them on an investigation. If they had one that was like a public location that we could go to, that actually happened. We were in Seymour. My daughter was actually giving birth that night when we got the phone call about going to this old hospital. And it's really weird while we were there, because as Steve was talking to the person, the group owner, the doors to the hospital opened up and nobody was there, and elevator doors were opening and nobody was there. There was a lot of weird things. Exactly. And so we were just like, okay, but there was so much going on. We couldn't really focus on this and that. And then, go see the baby. And I mean, there was just a lot of things going on. So it was really interesting. And we were actually going like that weekend. So it was like, okay, so we go home, we get everything that we need, and we go to this location. And that's when a lot of things started to happen. And it was just like, I don't even really know what I thought. I just took it as like I do everything else. It's just something that happens. It's just part of my everyday life, and never really gave it much thought beyond that. Just kind of went with the flow of things. And yeah, it's wild.
And, I love that you mentioned that, because I think we'll have an opportunity to go into that in more detail here in just a minute. But I think that's really important, especially when you're starting to set intentions, getting to the point where you don't necessarily think too much into some of the things that are coming up for you after you set the intention, and just going with the flow. So I love that. That's wonderful. Yes. Very good. Yeah. I'm a fledgling paranormal investigator myself, and working with shadow hunters to start again a chapter here in Ohio. And I have some interest, if you're local to Central Ohio, or if you're willing to travel to Central Ohio, contact me, and we're going to start having meetings soon and planning investigations for 2021. That's one of the things that I'm calling in for the upcoming year as well.
That's awesome.
Cool. Very cool.
That's awesome. Well, I do know that this year, 2021, there were some places that I would love for you to go with us. I mean, I've already told you about these places, but I definitely want you to go with us. They're places that we actually have access to investigate pretty much every year. There is a new one though. There is a new place that we have not investigated, so it'll be awesome to have you with us. It'll kind of be like a back-to-back weekend of investigations. And that one place will be Randolph County Infirmary, and the other place will be the mansion that Dan Allen also owns. So we have not yet investigated the mansion, and I'm really looking forward to that. So definitely love to have you with us on those. And also, there's a jail that we can investigate. I mean, there's a few places. So definitely want you to go with us and experience all of that, because, I mean, I've experienced it, but to see it through somebody else's eyes is just, amazing and priceless.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I would be honored to join you guys anytime. And I'm really just starting to practice and understand, the courtesy and the etiquette behind it, and bringing my gifts to the table and how to support a team. And I'm starting to build up my own equipment too. So it's very exciting. I'm very excited.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, the equipment does take time, but really, if you've got a flashlight, a recorder, and a camera, you're good.
Yeah.
You've got yourself, because really that's the best thing that you need. That's really the only tool that you need is everything, because a lot of it, yeah, it's great to have that recorder to play back and listen to things that you may have heard or things that you may not have heard. But really, it's your own experiences, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling. I mean, that's really what comes through. And a lot of times our group, I mean, they do walk around with gadgets and stuff. Me, I'm, like I said, I have my flashlight, the recorder. I'm good to go. Yeah. It's like, I'm good to go. I don't need anything else.
No, I was very fortunate enough to be able to make a Christmas list, and a lot of the items on there were actually things that were like $50 and under that I could start building up my repertoire with. So it's good stuff.
Awesome.
And we're getting some love from the comments. Oh, thank you so much, Scotty.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so sweet.
You. He is. I just love him to death. Like,
I know.
Let me tell you. Oh my gosh. Like, I had a reading with Scotty, right? And he was telling me all of these different things and everything else. And I mean, I took every word that he said to heart, like every single word. And it was just, you meet somebody, and I mean, I've met a lot of people. I've met Kim Russo, I've met Chip Coffey, I've met other people, other celebrities, and everything else. But all of those are okay. I mean, they're great people, but there's something about Scotty, and it was like it was always just, I don't know how to explain it. It was more important to be connected to him and to be near him and to work with him than with anybody else, if that makes any sense. It's just, I don't know. That's just me.
The thing about Scotty is very genuine and heartfelt, and between that heart connection, any one of us who have a very big heart connection would also feel that right away. I had, when I met Scotty, I had a reading with him, and I felt connected to him right away. And he knew more than he was leading on at the time. And all he did was just give me a big hug. And he said, we're a lot alike. So it came, we'd be working together. And it's just so exciting. So
yes. And I was like, I mean, that reading, I was like, I asked him, will you mentor me? I mean, that's really what I wanted. It's like, I didn't want anybody else. I knew that it was him, that I had to learn from him. There was nobody else. And, I had people asking me, Jenn, why do you need a mentor? And it was like, what do you mean? Why do I need a mentor? It's like, I need to learn from him. There's nobody else. I mean, and that's what I did. And that's how I focused on it.
Oh yeah. Having a mentor is so beneficial. I mean, and I'm coming from a corporate world, even having a mentor, just doing business as usual things in any industry is such a gift. So yeah, I feel you there. I feel very honored to also have him as a mentor, and setting ourselves up to be able to mentor others in the future. It's going to be a really great thing.
Yes.
That's coming.
I'm so excited. I mean, I've already seen a lot of things that's coming, and I'm just like, yes, let's do this.
Yes. I'm like, oh, it's about time.
Exactly.
So much to get here. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's going to get us there is definitely setting off the year with an intention. Correct. Or a few intentions. Mm-hmm. So, you and I come from, we're both coming from a place where we work very directly with energy. We understand the concepts and universal laws of energy, and how we're feeling inside directly reflects how our reality is unfolding. And if there's something that we desire, how there are some things to kind of clean up what we're desiring to ensure that we're getting it in the most pure and wholesome form. And when I say that, I mean for the highest and greatest good for everyone involved, So I'm very excited to swap our favorite tips and tricks. I have a feeling a lot of them will be the same. Right. We're usually finishing each other's thoughts.
I know.
This week we had split up our podcasters and made podcast art for the New Psychics Unite website. And there were a couple of our podcasters that were like, oh, they look so good, you choose. And I'm like, Jenn, they want me to choose and I can't choose. Which one do you think? And we would always choose the same one. So.
Including yours with Ava today.
Including my own, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, it wasn't just you connecting with me. It was you connecting with my daughter. Oh, I love it.
I think that was just so cool. I was like, cool, I can connect with her too.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, one of the things I wanted to open up with is kind of speaking to the differences between a ritual. We've talked about rituals and what that means to us, versus a resolution, because I do think they're slightly different. And then an intention versus a goal, because I think a lot of us kind of get those two things a little confused. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when it comes to setting your intention, I mean, that is the very first thing. That's like your thought process. And when it comes to setting that intention, you know, I think, or I feel, or I know, I've experienced, I guess is a good way, that your words have a lot of power. Your words are one of the most powerful things that you have, and being very specific about what it is that you want to manifest and bring into your world. So if you're going to say, I want to do this, no, I want to do that. I want to write this book. No, I want to write that book. I want to go here. No, I want to go there. You're confusing the universe, and all you're going to get is more confusion. So one of the first things that I always say when you're going to be setting any kind of intention is be very clear, be very specific on what it is that you want to do or what you want to bring into your life. And then the other thing is, don't just stop there, put action behind that and follow that through. And I guess that kind of goes into the goals a little bit, because even with goals really are, you can write down a bunch of things, but really those are just your intentions. It's when you put the action behind it that it takes it to the next level with that. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. So you had said intention's kind of like the beginning of our thought. And I want to back it up just a little bit and reiterate, I completely agree. Our words are so potent. I think we go through life not understanding how some of our common sayings are impacting what we experience. So how many times have we said, I am just so sick and tired. I am just so sick and tired. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. All you're doing is you're telling the universe, make me sick, make me tired. Exactly. That's a great example about how our words, and here's the tricky thing. Our words are also our thoughts. So we don't have to just say them out loud for them to have a influence on what's happening right now. So if you're even just thinking, I'm sick and tired, and you're spending a lot of time on, not present in the moment and just rolling through some of these catchphrases, maybe you grew up hearing them, maybe one of your favorite TV shows made it a catchphrase and just you felt like it was cute, but really what it's doing is it's kind of calling in some bad things into your life. Mm-hmm. So words absolutely have power, and our words stem from our thoughts. And intention is a thought, right? So what intention is, it's like energy. It's literally you telling the universe, okay, universe, here's what I want to start seeing. Mm-hmm. This is what I, want to see more of. And I think the difference between intention and goals, intention will give you the umbrella. Generally, this is what I want to start feeling more of, experiencing more of, or this is what I, intend to show up, or the way that I intend to show up. Goals would be like the little milestones to help support your intention. Mm-hmm. So we all have, and goals can break down into, to-do lists, and it kind of gets a little micro. If you've got Capricorn in your chart like I do, you want to be very careful about not overworking that. And we'll go into that a little bit more in just a minute. But I agree. Intention setting is different from goal setting. And, the resolution versus ritual. I think we're going to describe ritual here in just a little bit. But most of us during this time of year, we're like, all right, these are my resolutions. I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to stop eating sugar, or I want to pay off a credit card. Those, I think, resolutions are closer to your goals.
Correct.
So setting intention would be like, well, how am I going to feel, or how do I think I'm going to feel when I pay off that credit card, or when I lose that 20 pounds? And intention is more about the feeling, because I think sometimes humans don't like to feel because it can get painful. But the more intimate we are with the way that we feel and the way that we choose to feel, because it is a choice, the way that we process some of the tougher emotions really impacts our intentions and the energy that we're setting out. So those are just some of my thoughts on ritual versus resolution, intention versus goal. It's just charging the energy.
I absolutely agree with that. Everybody I agree with you on the resolutions. Everybody says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But again, it goes back to not just your intent, but you need the action to go with that. You need the verbs put in there in order to move that forward, because you can make as many lists as you want. But if you're not going to do the steps, take the steps that's needed to get from point A to point B, it's never going to happen. You're never going to move beyond that. And, I don't make New Year's resolutions. I just don't. It's just not something that I do. I mean, I know what I want to do, and I'm an Aries, and I go after what I want. That's kind of how I've always been my entire life. I've always just, if there was something that I wanted, I go after it. I go do it. I've always wanted to be a personal trainer, a certified personal trainer. Well, I did that this year. So, we can mark that off the list.
Congrats. That's wonderful. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to come move by you.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yes. So, that's really it. But I think it's just important that people take it to that next level and just go after what it is. Life is too short to just say the words. Go and do it.
Yes, definitely. There's going to be some room in this process that we go through tonight about taking what I call intuitive action. And we'll even go into why it's not good to push that all the time, but it is good to be open to it, to hear and to feel what next steps you should take. So see, Debbie, this is a really good point, Debbie. I think a lot of us do some self-sabotaging that we're not aware of. And that, we could do another whole show. In fact, maybe towards the end of January, Jenn, maybe I'll have you back on, because I do have false beliefs in my lineup in the future. And there's all sorts of things that stir up and kick up within us that cause some self-sabotaging behavior. But I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Jenn, when we know that we're guilty, guilty, there's no shame in this. I don't want to mislead anyone and think there's any shame in this. But when we're aware that this is happening, that some of the thoughts that we're having or the stories that we're telling ourselves aren't supportive and loving, the best thing you can do is just start talking to yourself like you would your best friend. Hey, listen, I know that you're really having a hard time right now, but we're going to get through this, and it's okay. And it's okay that you had these thoughts, but it's like, let's start, thinking something a little bit more positive. And those small steps actually start to make really big changes.
Yeah, I know a lot of people feel guilty about a lot of things, but I don't really understand why you need to feel guilt over something. Just learn from whatever it is that you did or you didn't do, pick yourself up and move on. It's a learning experience. There's no reason to feel guilty over learning something, whether you didn't quite complete it, or some people call it a failure. Well, it's not really a failure because you did something. You took that next step to try something, and there's nothing wrong with trying. It means, okay, so this didn't work this way. Well, let's try something else. Keep trying until you get it right. Don't feel guilty over, some people feel guilty because they take care of themselves. Why?
Right.
You need to take care of yourself. How can you take care of others if you don't take care of yourself? So guilt to me is just not a really good emotion to have. It's just kind of useless.
Guilt to me is almost as bad as fear. It's just a way other people try and control you. And it's not anyone's fault, and that's not a sign of weakness. It's just the society that we live in. And I think through conversations like these and planting these little seeds of awareness, hopefully we start to see some flowers blossom that are more guilt-free, shame-free. And what you said today is exactly what came out of my daughter's mouth. I was in a group chat earlier today, and I had inadvertently put my foot in my mouth big time. Like I just couldn't, and I was sitting there going, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I didn't realize that. I can't believe that this was happening. And that was the first thing Ava said. Listen, Mom, you didn't know, and now you do. Learn the lesson and move on. Don't sit there kicking yourself over that. And I think there's a part of us that sometimes feels like to make reparations or make amends, we need to make ourselves feel bad, when that's so counterintuitive and counterproductive. So I'm really glad that we're addressing that tonight.
Yeah. And some of that comes from the ego. It's the ego that wants us to feel bad and wants us to do that. And, when you realize where it's coming from, you can be like, okay, yeah, you got to go. We don't have time for this. Let's just move forward.
Right. That is not helping me learn this lesson. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, okay, sit down. What did I need to learn from this? Okay, this is what happened. This is what I did. Okay, I shouldn't have said that, but I did. Oh, well, let's move on.
And I apologize, and we're going to move on. Like, exactly. I don't believe in holding grudges either.
No. Why? Why do you want to keep yourself chained to somebody else's emotion, or chained to that person? Set yourself free from that so that you can move forward and they can move forward too. I mean, that's the thing. I'm like, I don't know why.
No, I totally agree. Very good. All right. So we know we want to set an intention. We know there are things that we want, or we think we know there are things that we want. I have a couple of ways that I like to take and make time to really define what I want, because it sounds straightforward, but when you think about it, when you ask yourself, what do you want? What do you really want? Really, usually what comes to the surface is what you think you want. And it's usually driven by something else. And so it actually is a little bit of work to really kind of get a more straightforward answer of what you want. What do you think about that, Jenn?
I think that's so true. A lot of times, like you said, there are things that we think we want and we really don't, and it's actually something else. But I think sometimes, we're afraid to ask for what it is that we truly want. We're afraid that maybe we're not enough to have that, or we're not deserving. And that's really the wrong mindset to have, because we're all deserving of everything in the world. There's nothing that says that we can't have everything that we want. It's just a matter of asking. So I think sometimes it's just that fear of, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not this, or I'm not that. And that's a wrong attitude to have.
I agree. One of the things, there are two exercises that I like to do when I know that. So usually, let me backtrack just a little bit. Usually when I am getting ready to set an intention, which again, for this conversation, we're focusing on New Year's Eve, but really this could be at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of your day, at the beginning of your meditation. You can decide at any time. And I encourage you to set new intentions often. because it helps us to focus not only ourselves, but it gives a signal to the universe again that, hey, this is the direction they want to go. So let's support that. And so they're calling you a drill instructor.
Okay.
And I agree. Everyone does need a drill instructor.
It's an Aries trait, I guess.
Well, and you know what's funny is that between you and me, Scotty, astrologically, we make up the fire trine.
Yes.
So there's a lot of fire, but each one of us is a different quality of fire, which I just love. So I like, I could go on and on and on about that. But so when I am sitting here and I'm like, boy, I want something. It's usually coming from something that I know I don't want. So something that's currently happening right now. And I'm like, that's not the way that I want that to play out. I really want this to change. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on feeling how I want to see things change. And I use the word feeling because usually if I'm sitting here and I don't like the credit card bills that I have, there's a feeling behind that. How do those credit card bills make you feel? How would you like to feel instead? If you're sitting here and you're thinking, I don't like my current living situation, how is it making you feel? How would you like to feel instead? So the way that I can do that is identifying, okay, I feel trapped by the credit card bills. I feel judged by the credit card bills. Instead, I'd like to feel freedom. I'd like to feel support, independence. All of those are great keywords for you to set up a new intention with. And so that when you write an intention or when you set the goal, so when you write the intention that I want more financial freedom, or it's my intention to have more financial freedom, then one of your goals is pay off this credit card debt. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different than a resolution. And then another, to get really clear on what I want to see more of, another exercise I'll do is I'll go into a meditation. And I'll find some music and I'll try and quiet my mind. And I'll just ask myself, what do I want to see more of? And I'll let my mind wander. It's almost like a little shamanic journey. So this is where I'm not trying to limit all of the thought. I want to see what comes up. And some images will often come up that I wasn't consciously aware of, but I'm like, well, yeah, I would like to see more of that. That sounds great. And so those are two ways that I personally like to try and figure out what I want more of to be able to build that intention. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and if you end up going through any type of meditation like that to visualize and get more impressions, I'm always big about, you'll always hear me promote, notice what you're feeling, because that is directly tied to the work that we're talking about tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I like to do every year is not just to sit in meditation and kind of think about, what it is that I want. And it's not really thinking about it. I just kind of let whatever happens, whatever comes through. I write those things down, but a lot of times in a meditative state, I also work on what I call a vision board. And one of the things that I like to do is to pull things from the previous year that actually happened to kind of keep that energy and that momentum going. And then I put other things on that board as well, and setting a word for the year or maybe a word for the month or however you want to do it. That's something that really kind of helps to set intentions and to really keep me focused on that. And my guides are pretty specific on certain things of, okay, this is what you're doing. You're not doing that. So just kick that to the curb because that's not happening this year, And so that's kind of what I do. I don't really, other than meditation and doing the vision board and working with the word of the year, that's really what I do and how I focus on that.
Absolutely. Linda wanted to know a little bit more about vision boards.
Sure.
How do you put yours together?
So what I like to do is I like to find images online, but I also don't limit just images online. Like I write down words because I'm a firm believer in words having power. Excuse me. And so that's really what I do. I find the pictures that I like. Maybe it's pictures like when I met you, Devin, and we were at an event. I would use that on my vision board because that was this year. So yeah, I want more of that for next year. I want to spend more time with you. So that definitely goes on my vision board. I will have a picture with Scotty, and that will be on my vision board like forever. I love that. But those are the kind of things that I do, and I don't limit it. If there's something that I want to do, if I want to travel, I get very specific on where it is I want to travel. And I put those, and, maybe it's not going to happen this year. Well, this year that kind of, went, that kind of went out the window as far as traveling goes. So some of those places that I wanted to travel to this past year will go on my next year's vision board because, well, we're going to try again. But I'm a firm believer in, things that happen the way they're supposed to happen. You may see it happening one way and it may happen some other way. And that's the way it's supposed to go, and kind of be open to that and not force that so much.
So the key word there that what you just spoke to is release.
Right.
So I know that on this show, I've talked a little bit about expectations before, and expectations can be a big self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. When we're setting intentions and calling new things into our life. Mm-hmm. So like if you say, I want financial freedom, but in your mind, what you're imagining is I want $1 million in my bank account. Those are actually two very different things. Mm-hmm. A large sum in your bank account isn't necessarily going to give you financial freedom. And in fact, in a lot of cases, the more money, the more problems. Mm-hmm. Financial freedom, and I only use that because I think it's a big one. Mm-hmm. Financial freedom is actually not worrying about where your money is coming from or how much that you have. Mm-hmm. And that, having that freedom to be able to do the things that you want to do without feeling lack. So that's just one example of many. So a lot of times when someone says, I want to lose 20 pounds, what they're thinking in their head is, I want to be able to walk faster. Again, completely two different things. Mm-hmm. The 20 pounds may or may not get you to walking faster or more fluid. And that's why it's so important to be very clear on that. And that's why I do love the vision board. For anyone who's not familiar with vision board, it's basically a visual representation of intention setting. And so the important thing about when you're doing a vision board is that whatever you put on that vision board, like Jenn said, your heart jumps at it. It's not enough just to like the picture. I mean, your heart has to speed up a little bit when you see that. And when you flip the page and you see the picture, you're like, yes, that's it. I almost said a curse word. But that's like how excited you should be.
Right?
That's the one. That's what I want. That's what goes up on your vision board. And we said this. We said we would cuss like sailors.
Yeah. And that we do. Anybody who knows me knows I have one favorite word.
Me too. Me too.
So, yeah. But, don't think that you have to have a piece of paper in front of you to put pictures on. Put this on your phone, put it in, if you have a planner, put it on your planner, make a board on Pinterest. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can go about doing that, and look at that every day. And, be gentle on yourself, be appreciative of what you have right now, where you're talking about, you want to walk faster, appreciate where you are now and say that I can do this, and eventually you will get to the I can do this. But if you put that in your mindset already, that you can already do it, that just pushes you forward to be able to finish what you started and what you want to achieve.
Yes. So that a couple points that I wanted to cross there. Gratitude is insanely huge.
Mm-hmm.
So I also want to kind of point out, like when you're doing an intention setting, I think it's important to make sure that you've created like a time and a space for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you can always just do on the couch casually while there's a movie playing in the background. Sometimes that might work for you. A lot of times we may feel like we've got to have no distractions, that, hey, let's go behind a closed door and let's get some quiet time so that we can really focus on what kind of intention that we're setting here. So when we're talking about quiet and private, distraction free, if you're just in a really busy household with young children, I have heard moms actually going to the bathroom before and just spending 15 or 20 minutes behind a closed door in a bathroom. I have personally, especially on a lunch break during a busy day, used my car as my quiet space. And Linda shares a funny anecdote. This is why I wanted to mention this. So I'm obviously not the only one who's a fan of the bathroom, because usually you've got a good 15 to 20 minutes undisturbed there, usually. And then if you're just having a hard time, even beyond those options, finding that space and time, maybe consider some boundaries and having to think, hey, I really, from 7 to 7:30, I just want this time for me. Can you please just kind of make sure that I'm undisturbed as much as possible?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, and there's nothing wrong with having that in the bathroom. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having things even on your refrigerator, just so that you're seeing it and you're keeping in mind what it is that you're doing. Because even when you're having like a bad day or a not so great day, nothing is ever really a bad day, but when you're not having like the best day ever, you can look at that and that can change your whole mindset. And yes, the dog is going to we have several of those.
We should have taken bets on which household would have the dog sounds first.
I'm always here.
I'm actually dog sitting this week, and so Ava was like, Mom, I'll take care of the dogs, and she's done an amazing job. I don't know what she's done, but she's worked her magic.
Yeah,
for sure. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. So and then some of the things that I like to do to make sure that the space feels special to me is I'm a big fan, like as a Leo, I'm a big fan of fire. So I like candles. I'm privileged enough and grateful enough to have a fireplace. So I'm often lighting a fire in the fireplace. But candles work really well too if you don't have a fireplace. I love incense, which is a very air attribute. And in magical communities, incense actually helps your prayers go up to heaven. So especially if you're doing some intention setting, you might want to consider incense. I have done things like tea and chocolate, or anyone who enjoys wine or sparkling cider, anything that makes you feel special. Pillows, blankets. What do you think, Jenn?
I agree. I'm always, for my rituals, and that's really what it is, of setting that intention and space and making sure that everything is perfect. I'm always big for cleansing my space. That's definitely a given. I'm the one who will set the smoke detectors off in the house using the sage.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm always upstairs, taking down the smoke detector, taking the battery out, because I know what's going to happen. So that's like the first thing. I do have candles going. I do have incense going. There is a music playing sometimes in the background. but I also have a singing bowl that I use. I have a drum that I use, and I absolutely love drumming. So really just depending on how I'm feeling in that moment and what I'm doing, I will choose any number of different things. But always, 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 my space is always cleansed, always have incense burning, and there is always some type of sound that's going in the room. And that's pretty much it. And that kind of seals everything. It lets my team know, hey, I'm ready to work. This is what we're doing. And I go from there.
Yeah.
And I've even done that outside, it doesn't matter, sometimes I might even call in the elements or, something else outside, just depending on what it is that I'm doing. But like you, I love fire. So vegan Aries, I mean, come on, you can't get much more fire than that.
Yeah. I saw a meme one time that for the 4 different elements of the zodiac, each element having 3 signs that match it, it kind of gave picture representations of what each element was. And like for Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, like Leo was supposed to be like a bonfire, and I forget what Aries was. I think one was like a forest fire and one was like a molten lava. So those were just examples of I'll have to find that and post that.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was really, especially now that I know.
that would be really cool, I mean, we are the Aries is the trailblazer, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it is like the forest fire. We're just we're just knocking it all down.
Right. And transformative, right?
Exactly. I mean, it really is, that's almost like the phoenix, rising from the ashes. And
This would be another show talking about the different elements and the quality.
Yes. We can talk about a lot of different things. I mean, there's not a topic we can't talk about. Come on.
I know. You all didn't realize this wasn't a live show. It was a production meeting. Like, we're just planning.
Yeah.
I can't.
That's kind of how it works, though. We start talking about one thing and we end up on this topic and this one and this one. And not everybody can keep up and not everybody can do that. I mean, it takes a very special person to be able to keep up with us.
Yes.
So. Yeah.
I agree. My
tribe. We love you. Thank God you can.
Hashtag my tribe. Yeah.
That's
right. All right. So we talked about what intention is and how that means and how it's important to really figure out what it is that you want and setting the space to set the intention. Now I think we're ready to actually set the intention. One of the ways that I like to set the intention is making very clear statements. And these are always positive statements. You don't want to use words like, I don't want. You don't want to use words negative. Like I've even heard some people say that you should avoid using the word debt. So like if you try to word something like, I want to remove all debt, that debt is a negative connotation and it calls more negativity into your life. So instead of saying, I want to remove all debt, focusing more on things like, I want more financial freedom. And actually, I correct myself. It's not I want, it's I have. So you always set it in the present tense. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, that's the only way to do it. When you're saying, especially when you say, I don't, you're just saying, hey, bring me more of that. I want more of that. I want more of what I don't want.
Yeah. Which is also very important, like what you said earlier. If you have a walking goal and you want to be able to walk 2 miles and you can only walk a quarter of a mile, be grateful for the quarter of a mile that you can walk. Because if you're sitting there constantly like judging yourself for not going the distance, then all you're doing is you're calling more limitation into your life.
The way I look at it is you have to crawl before you can walk and you have to walk before you can run. So, there's always a step that you have to take. And even if it's one small step, even if you could only walk 5 extra steps that day, celebrate that, because that's something that's amazing. And then, maybe the next day you'll get one more step, but don't beat yourself up over not being able to reach your full goal by a certain date. And that's the other thing too. Don't put a date on things. When you put a date on things, you're just setting yourself up to not achieve what it is that you want. And you're going to be disappointed in yourself, and being disappointed is not a good emotion to have.
No, and what we're trying to do so diligently is to protect this container of positivity around this new intention. So we need to be mindful of our thoughts, being mindful in the way that we're talking to ourselves in our head, being mindful of the things that we're focusing on. If we're focusing on what we can't do versus what we can do, all of those little things are the ways that we kind of self-sabotage and trip ourselves up. And so I kind of feel bad that we're towards the end of the show. I think we can go a little bit over if you're available.
I'm good. I'm good cool. With whatever. So
cool. Because it's so important to talk about. I really want to do some reiteration on the limitations by trying to define too much of what we want, and the expectations that we put around that in our intention setting. So again, if your intention is, I want to be happy because I want a pool in this state by this date, that puts a lot of specifications for the universe to work with. And now all of a sudden you're looking at something that might take 10 years to manifest or 5 years to manifest to get it just right. Whereas if what you want to focus on is more joy and peace or more relaxation, that leaves it more open for the universe to say, okay, I want her to have, or I want them to have these feelings. And it doesn't matter how it comes. And it will come in ways you won't imagine. It will never disappoint you. It will always be for your highest and greatest good and everyone else involved. But it may not be the way that you define it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And, a lot of people, again, we go back to they're afraid to ask what they want for, what they want in life. And some of that is because I think of how they grew up and, how their environment and their parents kind of defined their life. And, as a kid, you don't have a choice, but as an adult, you do. And you are the one who's in control, and you write on your slate. You determine what's going to happen, not somebody else. So don't let somebody else say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't have this, you can't have that. Don't pay attention to what those people are saying, because you absolutely 100% can have it all, and you can do it all.
Yeah. And I think it's important that when we're setting intentions, what we're really doing is we're planting a seed. And instead of going out and sharing with everyone, I know that you're so excited, right? And you're so like, oh, this is going to happen. I can feel it. What you don't want to do is share that with a lot of people who, out of love, are fearful, or they do naysay it, or you can feel their energy kind of withdrawal because, it puts them, because what that does is it kills any momentum that you just started in your intention setting ritual.
Yes.
It's better just to kind of keep that to yourself. Find ways to celebrate. And then when you're feeling like the momentum is really in a place that it can't be stopped, that's when you've got actual physical things to celebrate with your loved ones too. Absolutely. Like, hey, look what happened. This is what is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing too is they'll see it. They'll notice those changes. They'll notice the things that are happening, and, always just lead by example. That's one of the best things that you can do, is just be an example to everybody else, and your positive energy and the things that you're doing will, inspire somebody else to do the same, and it'll just be a chain reaction and keep going.
Yeah. And so this is a really good point. If I'm doing an intention setting, a lot of times you can say this or something better. And that kind of helps not only free up some of that expectation within you, but it helps keep you honest too. It's a place for you to mentally pause and say, okay, if I'm doing this or something better, am I being too specific? Is my intention a little less feeling based and a little bit more goal based? Because goals are fantastic. There's nothing wrong with goals. But if we're trying to set an intention first, we really do want to focus more on how we want to feel more in the future, whether that's exciting, adventurous, connected. I think a lot of us, when we want certain things, the base thing that we're really looking for is more connection, especially after this year where we've had to disconnect or disconnect from the ways that we traditionally meet with our friends and family.
Absolutely. Something else too is visualize. I mean, we're talking about how does that feel? Visualize how does that look? Once once that's happened, what does that look like? I mean, really visualize whatever it is that you're wanting to do or where you're wanting to go. What does it look like? Yeah. What does success look like to you? What does happiness look like to you? What does that look like? Not, I feel it too. What does it look like?
Yeah. When I visualize, I like to use all of my sensories too. So what does it look like, feel like, smell like, taste like? What scenario am I in? Who am I talking to? What does it sound like? Exactly. Those are some of the things that really root us into that visualization during this intention setting ritual, just really getting grounded into what I want to call into.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so after we do all this very intimate, grounded, anchoring work, we have defined it, we have blown it up, we have sent it and uplifted it to the universe. Now is the hardest part. Now is the part that Devin still cannot seem to quite grasp, letting it go. And not sitting there and constantly thinking about it and how do I do this and how do I get it and what do I need to, absolutely, there's a difference between divine action and then what I do, which is literally sit there and churn on it 24/7. So to me, it's like fire's coming up a lot tonight, but to me, it's like building a fire without any air.
Right.
When you're smothering your intention with your thoughts and your desire, you're literally sucking the air out of the environment for it to grow and blossom. And so then that is another self-sabotaging principle that we all need to be aware of when we're doing this work.
Yeah, I think one of the things that might help is when you start to realize that you're focusing so much on what it is that you're trying to do, is switch that mindset to something else. Put your focus on something else that you need to be working on and kind of keep going. I mean, it takes practice. It takes 30 days to do something new that puts a new imprint into your brain where it becomes like an everyday habit. And so, every time that you notice that, just like meditation, when you're meditating and you have that thought, it takes a little bit of practice to just let that thought go. It's the same way here, but it's not a meditation. You see that thought, you have that thought, okay, well, I need to focus on this. What can I do to make this happen? The moment you catch yourself doing that, switch your focus to something else.
Yes, I agree with that. 100%. When I'm done with my intention setting ritual, I like to write it down on a piece of paper, and then I either like to burn it, bury it, or submerge it into water. And that is the physical representation of letting it go. And then using some of your practices or your techniques about finding other ways and finding joy anytime that we're, finding ourselves getting too caught up on it. Find a way to have some joy, because that actually helps speed things up and support that long term too.
Absolutely. I like to do that too. If I'm outside, I definitely want to, thank you. But if I'm outside, definitely I want to use fire. If I'm inside, I don't have a fireplace, so I can't really burn things. Well, I can. I have a little way of burning things, but it's probably not always the best idea.
Right. We don't want anyone to come back and say, you told me to burn this. And yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. And I mean, but the other thing is too, is like you could visualize that being released. You don't actually have to burn it or put it in water or do anything or bury it, I mean, especially in the wintertime. I mean, you're not going to go out there and dig the frozen ground.
Right.
But something else that you could do too, if you really want to get rid of it, you can always take it somewhere else and disperse of it, and that's something else that you can try.
Yep. I was going to say, if you're by running water, and if you're not, flush it down the toilet.
Correct. Absolutely.
But I also like the idea of doing a visual representation too, because if all else fails, just imagine writing that intention on a helium balloon and letting it go.
Absolutely. Because especially if you're traveling, and I say this because I've had to come up with a lot of creative ways, because in the past years we have traveled a lot, and hopefully this year I'll get to go back to traveling a lot. And so you can't take everything with you. You can't take all of the things that you have at your fingertips. So, the meditation that you do, the meadow, your sacred space, you have to be able to connect to that sacred space even when you're not in sacred space. So there's a lot of things. So just visualizing what it is your intent is, and just let it go, release it, just like you would if you are connecting to somebody else's energy, and you need to release it. You need to let it go.
Absolutely. Very well said. Completely agree. All right. I think we've covered the basics for intention setting without going into a full-blown workshop, which might be something that we do next year together.
I would love to do that.
I would too.
A lot of good things that we can do. Hey, Scotty.
Yeah. Like, I feel like we've got a couple of great ideas for some workshops that we'd love to invite everyone to for 2021. And not only this, but, doing some false belief work and understanding where we're limiting ourselves. I feel like 2021 has so much that I can't even imagine coming up, and it's going to be so exciting.
Yes, absolutely. 2021 is going to be a big year. There is going to be a lot of changes, not so much. I mean, there's going to be global changes, but personally, on a personal level, everybody's going to have a lot of different changes, some more than others, but there are changes coming for everybody.
I agree. I think if 2020 was the beginning and the middle part of transitions, we're going to start seeing some things, like some people are still going to be in that middle transition toward the end in 2021. So we're not completely out of it yet, but it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. And the closer we get to that light, the more amazing things are going to come up out of this. And I know that it's a very uncomfortable, difficult time. If you're looking for community and support, feel free to reach out to Jenn or I. And definitely feel free to come to a Psychics Unite meeting. We are still holding our all chapter meetings every Monday night. If you Google Psychics Unite on Facebook and join the group there, you'll see the meeting invite that's released every Sunday. We would love to have you. It's a very judgment-free, informative, fun-loving group. So if you're looking for ways to remain connected or get more connection, definitely recommend that.
Absolutely. There's plenty of chapters out there. We do have a website coming. We're in the works with that. So that's coming. There is a YouTube channel, and there is a Pinterest and Instagram. It's all out there. So
yeah, it's good stuff. So Jenn, how can we find you, learn more about you and what you have to offer?
The best way is just go to my website. It's jennhodgson.com, or you can go to Facebook, Jenn Hodgson Psychic Medium. It's also the same thing on Instagram and on YouTube, and or Professional Paranormal Investigations. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but the easiest way is just to go to my website. It will get you to all of the social media platforms that I am part of.
Perfect. Very surprise. We're on the same page on devinevans.com. That'll get you to all my social media platforms. But on top of that, I'm also Devin Evans Psychic Medium on Facebook. And I am Divine E Medium, spelled Devin E. So I'm Divine Medium on Instagram as well. And feel free to hit us up on Facebook. We're both very active here in this platform. So tomorrow night, Greg Koss is going to be with us with the Shadow Hour, and his guest is Sandy Cornwall this week. I am so excited.
Right. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I love hearing Sandy talk to you. She's just amazing.
Yeah, well, they both are. I love Sandy and I love Greg, and it's like,
I know.
It's going to be an awesome show. So definitely encourage everyone to return here tomorrow night for that show.
Absolutely.
But have an amazing New Year's Eve. Celebrate it however you feel called to. Take time tomorrow if you're able to think about your intentions. And if there's any way that either one of us can support you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We love you all.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you for joining.